Hola and welcome to The Real God is not in the Bible. The Bible's not about God at all. Not at all. And in this episode, we're going to be talking about the Tower of Babel. What really happened? They'll never talk to you about this in church. You will never hear what I'm about to tell you in church. It's not discussed there. It's not welcome there. If you ask questions about it, then you will probably get the side eye to get back in line. That's what I was getting when I was in Christianity. Before I ventured far beyond to get answers to those existential questions that we all have, right? I'm an occultist. I'm Reverend Valerie Love, also known as Kaisi. I get to lead retreats all over the world. We are going to Stonehenge in September of 2025. It's called the Mystical Realms Retreat. And we are going to be in Stonehenge on the fall equinox, baby. OMG. Go to valerielove.com for info and christianwitches.com. Let's see the chat. Welcome on in. We're here every Wednesday night on Witchy Wednesday. And Witchy Wednesday is really all about having a conversation about the occult meaning of the Bible. What really happened? Ancient astronauts, our ancestors. Where did we come from? The true nature of humanity and divinity. So, we're talking about our divinity and we're also talking about our humanity. We're talking about all of that. Smash up the likes if you've never been here before. Come on and smash that like button, baby. Smash the share button and remember to subscribe. About 50 something percent of the amazing people who watch this channel, the Valerie Love channel, not the Christian Witches channel, the Valerie Love channel, are not subscribed. Just go ahead and tap that little subscribe button. That means a lot. That means a lot. All right, here we go. So, as we do every week, we have some deliciousness to share with you. I'm going to see now about what's happening in the chat and make sure you let us know where you're coming in from too, because we talk to our beings all over the world, and it is so good. It's so good. So tonight we're going to talk about the Tower of Babel. What actually happened? What is going on with this Bible story? How did the languages get confused? What happened to the Tower of Babel? Where is it? We're going to get into all of that. And of course, the untold story they'll never tell you in church about the Tower of Babel. Let's go on screen share. Welcome. Welcome. Come on in. Hey, Tiger. How you loving? How you loving? So happy that you are here with us. So happy you're here with us. All right. Tower of Babel. I've got some slides for us. Family, more than ever, because of the time that we're living in, and because there is very much a how do I want to say this? There are a lot of changes happening on planet Earth. And in the changes that are happening on planet Earth, it is critical for all spiritual seekers, spiritual masters, teachers, the witches, the wizards, the shamans, the druids, all of us to hold a very high banner and a very high vibration. Keep your vibration very high, a very high vibratory field, because a lot is happening on planet Earth. We're having a great time of upheaval. We're having a great time of dismantling. We're having a great time. And when I say great, I don't mean great as in it feels good. I mean that it is large. It's larger than any one person. It's larger than many people. It's a great evolutionary leap we're making now. And because we contracted, that was the first word that came to me. We contracted to be on planet Earth at this time to hold this this whole Gaia, Earth Mother, in a vibratory field of pure, unconditional love so that humanity could birth our next evolution. That's what's happening now. So be sure. All of us spiritual people, all of us, be on your practices, meditate, hold that high vibration. The world needs you now more than ever. All right. I get a lot of questions in the comments that I absolutely love. I love the questions. So, this may answer some of the questions that many of our viewers have. We welcome the thousands upon thousands of viewers who have been watching this whole series. I just love you. I just love you and I appreciate you because this is not easy to talk about and it's not widely accepted yet. Yet. So, what is the purpose of this series? The purpose of this series is not to break down Christianity and get people out of the Christian faith. It's not to destroy all of that. It's not to do that. The purpose of this series is to reveal our true origins as a united species and our divine nature, which all of that has been hidden from us for thousands of years. This is to provide conclusive evidence that the Bible is not from God. The Bible is not inspired by God. The Bible is not about God. You are not beholden to listen to the Bible. You are not beholden to live your life according to the Bible like billions of people think. And then they're carrying around big guilt because they can't fulfill the things in the Bible. Well, who can? And I promise you, your pastor is not fulfilling the things in the Bible. I can promise you that. The purpose of this series is to end all war and be a stand for oneness, peace, goodwill among all people, all nations, all faith walks, all. All is one. That's what I stand on. If you desire, pick up the book that I am currently writing. The ebook is ready. I am working on the paperback and the hardcover coming out soon on Kickstarter. The link will be below. The real God is not in the Bible. How religion and superstition blinded humanity to the truth for thousands of years. If you're a member on the Valerie Love channel or the Christian Witches channel, you'll get a gift copy. And if you purchase a copy, go to valerielove.com/books. If you choose to purchase a copy, I so thank you because this book has been on bestseller lists for months now. I love that. Let me get you the link. And this is coming from Amazon influencers. So, as an Amazon influencer, I am compensated when you buy. Thank you so very much. That is the wonderful disclaimer I need to put out there to let everyone know that this is an affiliate link. Okay, and it's going in the chat. If you decide that you would love to buy the book, I would be so appreciative. That would be amazing. And please leave a review. I love the reviews. Love the reviews that are coming in. Let's talk about the Tower of Babel. So, first, let's go to the Bible, one of my favorite books on the entire planet. At first, the people of the whole world had one language and used the same words. I'm reading from the Good News translation of the Bible. I like this translation. I have a whole Bible collection. I like this particular one, among others. It's not my favorite, yet I like it. As they wandered about in the east, they came to a plain in Babylonia and settled there. So, this is giving you some background information that everybody on the entire planet, or as far as the people who wrote this know, everybody spoke one language. Everybody was of the same tongue. They used the same words for everything. Wow, I would have liked to have lived then. Maybe we did in a past life. That seems easy to me. That's much easier than what we have now. Anyway, and then the people wandered. They went to the east and they came to a plain in Babylonia and they settled in that plain. Then they said to one another, "Come on, let's make bricks and bake them hard." So they had bricks to build with and tar to hold them together. Some places it says bitumen. Here it says tar, right? That sticky substance. The same thing they told Utnapishtim, also known as Atrahasis, also known as Noah, to make, also known as Ziasudra, to put on the vessel that was going to preserve him and his family and the species, the animal genetic material of many different kinds of species when the flood came to that particular area of the planet. They said, now let's build a city with a tower that reaches to the sky so that we can make a name for ourselves and not be scattered all over the earth. It's very interesting what they're saying. The people are saying, let's make a name for ourselves. Let's build a tower. But we only know afterward that they were scattered all over the earth. But how would they have known beforehand that they were going to be scattered all over the earth? So there's a little misstep there of the Bible writers. They're letting on that they already know what happened later. So they're backdating it to put it in the people's mouths what happened, but the people couldn't have known what was going to happen because it hadn't happened yet. Then the Lord came down. Lord, one of the Anunnaki, came down to see the city and the tower which they had built. Now, I want to ask you something. Would the Almighty, all powerful, all knowing, omnipotent God of all have to come down and inspect anything? Of course not. So that tells you right there that it can't be God. Now, then, these are all one people that he said. This is what he said. Supposedly, God said to himself. God's talking to himself, and he says, oh, these are all one people, and they speak one language. God is saying this as if God doesn't know it, but didn't God give the people the language? This is just the beginning of what they are going to do. But would God be saying that because wouldn't God want God's creation to absolutely flourish in doing what they do? Isn't that what God said? Be fruitful, multiply, command the earth, command the resources. Doesn't God want his children to expand and flourish? Soon they will be able to do anything they want. But isn't that what God told you to do? According to the story, let us, boom, let us go down and mix up their language so that they will not understand each other. So there it's telling you, it's revealing that this is yet another Elohim story, aka Anunnaki story. So the Lord scattered them all over the earth. Now, the people didn't know that they were going to be scattered all over the earth. Yet a second ago in the earlier in the chapter, it says, and not be scattered all over the earth. So clearly the people could not have said that. The people weren't thinking, oh, build this big tower. They weren't thinking that there was going to be some backlash from it. And I'll tell you why. The story's coming up. It's a good story. They didn't think there was going to be any backlash from this. The people that were helping to build this tower. Yes, there was a tower. The Bible always points you in the direction of look over there. Clue, clue, clue. So the Lord scattered them all over the earth and they stopped building the city. The city was called Babylon. Babel, Babel. Babel means gate of God. Babel means same thing, gateway to God or gateway of God, some kind of gateway to God. That's what they called it. Because there the Lord mixed up the language of all the people, and from there he scattered them all over the earth. Genesis 11:1. And that's the end of that story. Well, wow. That's the end of the story. Wait a minute. Bible, there's got to be more. Yes, there's more. So even though people put this story together in the Bible writers put this story in because this would have been a legendary story. Everybody knew about the famous Babylon. Everybody knew, quote unquote, about the hanging gardens of Babylon, one of the wonders of the ancient world. Everyone would have known about this huge tower in Babylon. So the Bible writers definitely included that story. I'm glad they did. Now, there's two pieces of information for us to examine that takes us deeper into this story of the Tower of Babel and what really happened. As we've seen in this series, God didn't destroy Sodom and Gomorrah because they were gay. That's ridiculous. No. Live your life, love who you want to love. I don't know why people are so concerned about sex they're not having. Somebody else is having sex over there and they're enjoying it. Consenting adults, do what you want. That's not why God didn't destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. No, we went through that whole conversation. And it's connected to this because they were having wars. It's connected to the Tower of Babel as well. Okay, so there are two keys that we want to look at. One is that we want to look at the Sumerian legend. There's a Sumerian legend called Inmerkar and the Lord of Arata. Now, in the stories, of course, they're not identical. Don't let people in Christianity tell you, oh, yeah, there's flood stories all over, but none of them are like Noah's flood. Don't let them tell you that because it's true. One story may say Noah's story, I think he released a dove, he released a raven and a dove. In one of the Sumerian uh, stories, Atrahasis or either Ziusudra or either Utnapishtim released three birds. One was a dove, one was a raven, and there was a third kind. So a Bible thumping Christian will say it's not the same story. See, this one released two birds and that one released three. It's different. The essence of the story is the same. And we can tell, even though all of the minute facts of the story are not identical, we're dealing with a game of telephone, pass the story on generation. So it wouldn't be identical. There are key correspondences that reveal we are talking about the same set of events. Okay, so there's a Sumerian legend, so we got to look at that. And then, and then, and then there's a ziggurat. A ziggurat. A ziggurat. What is this ziggurat? Etymologically, etymologically, a great ziggurat in Babylon dedicated to Marduk. Here's what it could have looked like. Is this the famed Tower of Babel, or Babel, as some people would call it? It was, according to legend, it measured 300 feet tall or 90 meters. It was never finished. They started it. The Bible is correct in that. It was never finished. So the Bible is giving you clues. And this is the ziggurat and how large it would be in comparison with the Empire State Building. It would have only been slightly shorter than the Empire State Building. Now tell me, what Bronze Age people do you know with Bronze Age tools making a ziggurat the size almost of the Empire State Building? Couldn't happen. Couldn't happen. Who was the architect? Where did they get the knowledge? Clearly, this is advanced technology, and the ziggurat was built in order to have another spaceport. That's my contention. This ziggurat would have been as tall as a 30-story building. Now, you tell me. You tell me. All right, so let's talk about this ziggurat of Edamananki. They found the ruins for it. Babylon, located over there by Iraq, Chaldea, Ur. Temple of the foundation of heaven and earth. That is what it means. Etymology. Temple of the foundation of heaven and earth. The most famous ziggurat in Babylon, dedicated to Marduk, the chief god of Babylon. Babylon. Now, Marduk, as we go back, was Enki's son, right here. Okay, keep that in mind. He's Team Enki because we have Team Enki and Team Enlil. He's Team Enki. Most it was dedicated to Marduk, the chief god of Babylon, and stood as a monumental religious structure according to uh, mainstream archaeology. It was a temple. Okay, and let's look at some of the. This is not even from Anunnaki enthusiasts or ancient astronaut theorists. It's not even from them. This is from mainstream archaeologists that say that this ziggurat, the ziggurat called Edamananki, is possibly the Tower of Babel. It fits. Look it up. You can look it up. Look up this ziggurat of Edamananki. And it means temple of the foundation of heaven and earth. I gotta say, I love the name. Man, they knew how to name things back then, didn't they? So, a British Assyriologist, Andrew George, he said that Edamananki was a stepped tower, not a pyramid like the pyramids of Egypt. It was steps going up, and they found an ancient cuneiform tablet, and on it had a resemblance of the steps of the tower going up, 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 sky in the heavens. In the book The Greatness That Was Babylon, H.W.F. Sagg says that the ziggurat of Babylon was an awe-inspiring structure, and it could have been the model for the later Bible writers because, of course, all of these things happened before the first word of the Bible was ever written. Let me come off screen share for a minute, because we tend to think, let me come off screen share for a quick minute because stop screen sharing. We think the Bible, well, this is what I thought, was the oldest book in the world, was the oldest book of them all, or at least the oldest writings. We knew that it wasn't a book when it was originally written, it was scrolls. We knew that. Yet we thought the Bible was the oldest. Turns out the Bible is one of the youngest. What do you mean? Bible scholars say that the first words of the Bible could not have been penned any older, any earlier than 1100 BCE. 1100, maybe 1000 BCE. And many other Bible scholars say it's somewhere around 600 BCE that the first word of the Bible was ever written. That means we're talking about the Hebrew Bible, of course, because the New Testament came later. That means the Hebrew Bible is no older than, this is 2025 plus 600. At most, the Hebrew Bible is 3,025 years old, or at the youngest, about 2,625 years old. That's from Bible scholars. We know the Bible is no older than that. So when you talk about the Anunnaki 200,000 years ago crafting humanity, genetic manipulation of our DNA, if that happened somewhere between 200 and 300,000 years ago, the Bible is super young, super young. The Bible just practically showed up just recently. Okay. I like that. But God was insecure and jealous and knocked it over. That's what they say. Oh my goodness. I'm glad you're here too. Oh, you're reading Dolores Cannon books? Well, well, well. Oh my goodness. You are in good company. I thought I missed your live stream. You didn't. You didn't miss it. Wednesday nights, 7 p.m. Eastern Time is the show. I'm so glad I'm here. I've been reading Dolores Cannon books lately and deconstructing from Christianity. Congratulations. All religions go back to the Tower of Babel. Love that. Love that. So consider, family, the Bible is very young. The Bible is not old. Not at all. Unless, 3,000, we could call it old. Yet the Egyptians have writings that are older than the Bible. The Sumerians have languages, have written records that are older than the Bible. The Babylonians have written records that are older than the Bible. The Africans, there's cave paintings far older than the Bible. The Bible is not that old. So we've got to kind of get it out of our minds. Basically, we were fed a pile of rubbish that in no way is as it was given to us. And now here we are faced with a 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle to put the pieces back together again. That's what we're doing. Wow. To put the pieces back together again. Let's go back on screen share and get to the Tower of Babel. What really happened? What happened? Okay. So we've got two scholars right here. This one is a British Assyriologist, Andrew George. And let's go to Donald Wiseman, a Bible scholar and an Assyriologist. He says that the linguistic and architectural similarities between Mesopotamian ziggurats and the biblical account of Babel, there's some similarities there. Not only in the architectural similarities, the linguistic similarities. And this should not be strange because the Israelites were in bondage in Babylon for hundreds of years, according to what they told us. I wasn't there, so I can't say that that actually is what happened. That's the story they give us. And there's evidence for that story that the Israelites were in captivity in Babylon for hundreds of years. They would have known all of these Mesopotamian stories. They would have known all about Babylonian stories. They would have known all about the Babylonian gods, the Egyptian gods, the Assyrian gods. They would have known all about all of that. What about this excavator, a German archaeologist? He excavated at Anunnaki in the earlier 20th century, and he said it had to be the Tower of Babel because this thing was enormous. Like it's got a square base, and a square base, a huge square base that steps up and up and up and up and up until it gets 300 meters high. It had to be massive, massive, a huge, massive configuration that they were building. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about this Sumerian legend. Enmerkar and the Lord of Arata. Okay, now it involves Inanna, my favorite Anunnaki. No, actually, my favorite Anunnaki is a tie between Enki and Ninhursag. And my next to the favorite Anunnaki is got to be Inanna. Absolutely. So you know that there's going to be some Inanna, Marduk, and more Anunnaki drama. This is the Anunnaki drama. And if you want to really read some of these stories, I'm reading the Sumerian stories. You can read this book by Samuel Noah Kramer. He was one of the world's leading Assyriologists back in the day. And if you actually want to read the story that I'm talking about, Enmerkar and the Lord of Arata, this is one version. It's online, and let me just drop it in the chat. It's a fascinating story. It's a fascinating story. Okay. Oh, I'm so glad. I'm so glad. Thank you so much, Helga. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And Ben, thank you so much for being here. Appreciate your courage to speak the truth. Woo! Thank you, Q. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I love you, family. Okay, let's talk about this story. So for this, we've got to come off screen share. It's story time. Once upon a time. So remember that we've got to understand the basic structure of this whole Anunnaki family and why were they warring? What was going on with these beings that they just clash and clash and clashing? And they talk about that there were wars in heaven, and they talk about that there were wars at the pyramid, and there are many scorched earth places on planet earth of ancient, like, nuclear damage. What happened? Well, we know that there was a whole family, right? And there were 12 major ones of the Anunnaki. Team Enlil, Team Enki, that's what I call them. And Enlil, as we know, was the one who was the antagonist of the story, the one that later turned out to be some of the most horrific words of Yahweh that were ever spoken were Enlil. Now remember, they plastered Yahweh's name over all the Anunnaki. So if Yahweh seems like he has 20 different voices, he does. Because according to scholars, there are about, especially Moro Biglino, there are about 20 different Elohim in the Hebrew Bible. At least 20. 20 different ones running around. Many of them, some they made into um, villains, and some they subsumed into Yahweh. So Yahweh says things that Enlil would have said. Yahweh says things that Inanna would have said. Yahweh says things that Enki would have said. Yahweh, Yahweh, Yahweh. We know the Yahwehs went crazy and they redacted the Bible. Okay, so let's go further. Oh, and when I said the Bible is very, very young, I do want to add this piece to it. It's recounting very old stories. So, though the writing of it happened fairly recently in the last 3,000 years, it's telling stories that are far older, that it inherited as an inheritance from our ancestors. Our ancestors were star people. Don't we love that? I for one, I love that our ancestors were star people. Okay, now let's go further. So, why were they warring? They were warring for power. The same reason why people are warring today. They're warring for power, dominance, control of a region. And so, after the flood, the spaceship, their landing port, the landing place, which was off in the hills where they had all of these beautiful cedars of Lebanon. When the Anunnaki first came here about 450, about half a million years ago, about 500, 450,000, 400,000 years ago, maybe even 500,000 years ago, when they first got here, this is where they first came, the landing place that they first came to. Well, when they made that landing place, it lasted for a while, but then when the Great Flood came, it got wiped out. It got wiped out with a lot of other things at the Great Flood. So these, the Tower of Babel and all of that, this is all after the Great Flood. Okay, so Marduk wants to build his own spaceport because he feels or he thinks that he should be next in line because the time of Enlil is coming to an end. So he's supposed to be the next in line for kingship because he kind of feels like his father got usurped, his father Enki. Because remember, Enki was the firstborn of Anu. Anu is what they call like the great father sky god. He didn't come down here a lot. He didn't hang down here. He stayed up there. And when I say heavens, I'm actually talking about outer space. I'm not talking about a spiritual, mythical concept. I'm talking about space. Okay? Anu, who is the father of both Enki and Enlil, was his divine consort, or his consort, his wife was Antu. Yet he had Enki with another wife because they were kind of a little bit like the Targaryens. I don't know if George Martin knew about the Anunnaki. The Anunnaki and the Targaryens had some, they were kind of okay with the brother sister thing. Ugh. Just like the Egyptians were kind of okay with the brother sister thing. Oh, so, oh my goodness. So he, Inky, even though he was firstborn, he was not going to be the ruler, next ruler in line, because he was not born according to the royal wife. So the Anunnaki, they brought their craziness with them to the planet. This planet didn't know anything about kings and queens until the Anunnaki got here. We didn't have the whole royal kingship. Your child is the next one to rule, whether they're fit to rule or not. We didn't have a democracy. We didn't have monarchies. We didn't have democracy. We didn't have any of that before they got here. All of the groups of hominids that were walking around, like, Homo naledi, Homo neanderthalandus, or the Neanderthals, all of the different groups that were walking around, they were in their own groups with their own social structures, just like chimpanzees. Chimpanzees don't have a king and a queen. Chimpanzees do have a social order and a structure to what they do. Same thing with lions. Lions have a pride, and there's rules according to how the pride goes. Same thing with any herd of animals, any social group. All of these groups, they had their own ways of relating. They had their social structures. So it wasn't like it wasn't anarchy. It just wasn't a king and queen. The Anunnaki brought that here. Oh, king and queen, and then the next one that rules is your child. But what if your child is not fit to rule? What if your child doesn't want to rule? What if your child is not the best person to rule? Right? That's where we got that from. Okay, so there's Enlil and Enki. So there's a rivalry going on between these factions, and these factions, they are always up to something. They're clashing, they're angry, they're throwing bombs at each other, they have armaments. These factions are blowing up shit. These factions don't get along. So on Team Inky is his son Marduk. On Team Enlil is his daughter, well, his granddaughter. In some stories, it's his daughter. In some stories, it's his granddaughter, Inanna. And Inanna, we know she's a badass. She's not taking no tea for the fever. She wants to rule. She's going to take what she wants. She's doing what she want to do. So after the flood, it was almost like all bets are off for the old agreements. Inanna was like, I'm taking that, and I'm taking that, and I'm taking that too. And they say she stole the tablets of destiny that were in Egypt. And Inky was mad because the tablets of destiny, they told how you set up that entire civilization. So the architecture, the astrology, the political system. These beings were super organized. So they called it tablets of destiny. So Inanna stole the tablet of destiny. They got it back eventually, but it was drama. It was drama. So who wanted this spaceport in Babylon? Now think about where it's located. Babylon was in Enlil's territory. Down a little bit south was Eridu. Eridu, this is all in Mesopotamia. In Eridu, that was Enki's territory. And of course, before they even got to Sumer, they were in Africa. We talked about that before. Civilization did not start in Sumer. It didn't. That's what they're saying in the history books. It did not. Civilization started in Africa, and the evidence is still there in Great Zimbabwe, the original Stonehenge, which is in South Africa, or is it some Zimbabwe, and the Adams Calendar, which is the original Stonehenge, Great Zimbabwe, and also all of the stone structures spread all across Southern Africa. The first huge civilizations with millions of people living there were in Southern Africa, also known as the Abzu. That is where they made the first Adam and Eve, the first genetic prototypes of humans was in Africa. It was called the Abzu, ABZU, or sometimes called APSU, the Abzu. And that was all Inky's territory. And Inky and Ninhursag were the great minds fashioning all of this genetic research. It's almost like, do you remember the girl? Please tell me, family, in the chat, who was Black Panther's sister? Do you remember her? And she had her big. I envision the Anunnaki as being like that. Who is the sister? And I think she's going to be a Black Panther or something like that. Who is his sister? The super smart one that was making the suits and whatnot. Somebody tell me her name. That's how Ninhursag was. Super smart, very, very intelligent, and they can do all of these highly advanced technological things that other people can do. So they're going back and forth, arguing over territory, arguing over power, arguing over who should be ruling next. And in the Epic of Gilgamesh, yes, the Epic of Gilgamesh is connected to the Tower of Babel. Zuri, thank you, Smoky Thoughts. Love it, Zuri. That's right, that's right. The Epic of Gilgamesh is related to the Tower of Babel. Why? Because the Epic of Gilgamesh, oh, Uri or Zuri? Which one is it? I got two Zuris and two Yuris. Princess Shuri. Or maybe you say it Zuri? Okay, Zuri. All right. The Epic of Gilgamesh, Princess Shuri. Thank you so much. Okay, I'm going to say it that way, Princess Shuri. The Epic of Gilgamesh is connected to the Tower of Babel because even though the Bible only gives us a very short account of the Tower of Babel, it's a bigger, more complex, broader story over a much longer time frame than just a few verses in the Bible. The Bible is giving us clues again, once again, to look back, get the whole story. So it had been years that these folks had been warring back and forth. Now, in the Epic of Gilgamesh, Gilgamesh and Enkidu is in the Epic of Gilgamesh. Enkidu is this twin, like a stunt double, that is going with Gilgamesh on his epic quest, right, for immortality. And his mother explained to him Gilgamesh, because Gilgamesh wants to live forever. He wants immortality. He wants to live like the gods because Gilgamesh is part God and part, human. How many stories have you heard about that? It's all through Greek mythology, it's all through Roman mythology. How many stories have you heard about that? You sound a lot like a female version of Billy Carson, and he's a big fraud and he's been exposed by the Christians. It's so funny. Oh my gosh. If you think Billy Carson has been exposed by the Christians, you need to go watch the Real Bible Scholars on West Huff. Where they debunk West Huff. The debunkers are getting debunked. Boo. Sorry, I got nothing for you. Did you know your name is Samson? Did you know that Samson means little son? And that is after Shamash, the sun god, which was also one of the Anunnaki. So thank you, Samson, for coming here. It literally means little son. Your name, you are literally named after the Anunnaki. How you like that? Can't make this shit up. Wait a minute. I need a minute. Ooh, good Lord Jesus. Help me with these people. Some of these comments crack me up. Oh my goodness. And you know what's interesting? Whenever you see a comment like that and you go over to the person's channel or just to their account, you just say, oh, well, I wonder what they teaching. Jack, zero, bumpkins, donut. They ain't teaching nothing. They just trying to go around. Yeah. And so and so says such and such. Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. You can sit at the kiddie table at Thanksgiving and let us know when you have something really important to say. But right now, you sitting at the kiddie table at Thanksgiving, and we're gonna give you the paper plates while all of us grown folks we're gonna eat with China. you, know, you know what you get? We're gonna give you the scissors that's round that don't cut shit. That when you try to cut it, it just bends the paper. We're gonna give you that because clearly you're not ready for you're not ready for the grown ups table at Thanksgiving. You are not ready for prime time because prime time says, "Let me find the truth. Let me not be married to my old way of thinking." I used to believe a lot of the stuff they told us in church. Man, that stuff is just not as they told us. I appreciate it. It's just not as they told us. It just isn't. There's so much more to the story. And you know, I love it. Don't go delete that account. Paper plate and a little plastic knife and a little plastic fork. Because these are babies. This is what we're talking about. That this is a very childish way of looking at things. If you think that Billy Carson was debunked, baby, you got another thing coming. You haven't looked at the whole story because you didn't look at all that the actual Bible scholars who are not trying to hold on to the apologetic way of Christianity, they're fighting so hard because the thing is going down. It's being exposed. This is the revelation that we're living in, right? If you think that the Christian story is accurate and true in all its respects, well, I would just say study more. That's all. I would just say study more. I would say, some people are not interested in truth. I'm committed to learning the truth. I want to know what really happened. Okay, so in the Epic of Gilgamesh, something very interesting happened. Gilgamesh and Enkidu, okay, so let me go back a little bit. Gilgamesh wants immortality. His mother tells him, well, here's the reason you don't have immortality or why you can't live as long as like your father and all the other people that are Anunnaki live. Now, this is an actual fact. Did we all know that time is different in outer space than it is here on Earth? Time is different. So 10 minutes could go by on Earth, but it could be 6 minutes in space. Time does not move at the same pace everywhere throughout the universe. Isn't that interesting? So let's say that time is slowed down where they're coming from. So for them, one day for us is 24 hours. Maybe one day for them is 3 years. Now I'm making an exaggeration there. I don't know what their one day is. I do know that one circuit around the sun for them was 3,600 years. One shar. Right? Uh I hope Christianity never goes away because I enjoy getting a rise out of those people. It's very enjoyable, right? It's very satisfying. You know what's satisfying about it is the fact that they don't know anything other than what they've been told and they just believe it. I used to be there. They won't go and do a true investigative study beyond what they have been told just to see And now there's no reason for that because we live in the information age. You can get all this information just like that, right? Yes, so 3,600 years was one shar. So our year, we're close to the sun. We're whipping around the sun like this, right? Time moves different for us. So we're whipping around the sun, and it takes us 365 days to whip around the sun, supposedly, right? Or 364 plus 1 day. What if it takes them 3,600 years to go around the sun because of where their planet is? They're not going to age like us. They could live to be 10,000 years old, 20,000 years old, 30,000 years old, and still look like it's like we have this on this planet. Dog years are not the same as human years. We have it right here on this planet. So why do we not believe that it could be possibly like that on other planets? There could be planets where beings live 100,000 years, and that's normal on their planet. Like our planet, one human year, 7 dog years to one human year. Is that how it works? 7 dog years to one human year. So your dog is a year, your dog is really 7 years. Your dog is two, your dog is really 14 years. Your dog is 10. People are like, wow, that's an old dog. Your dog is 15. Wow, you are blessed that your dog lived to be 15 years old. Even dog years and human years are not counted the same way. So why wouldn't we think that our years and years of the star people would be counted differently? We have to think that that sounds logical to me. That sounds very logical to me. It doesn't sound far fetched, doesn't sound like a leap. It makes sense because we already know, science has already told us that time does not move the same place everywhere. The speed of time is not the same everywhere. On the moon, we don't know how long it takes something to happen on the moon. That could happen here in 1 hour. So Gilgamesh wants to live like forever. He wants this. It's not immortality, and they weren't immortal beings. They weren't divine beings. They could be killed. Yet it was that they lived for a very long time, and they were very large, and they had a lot of knowledge and wisdom. So naturally, the people thought these got to be God. Plus, they, reconfigured our DNA. So we kind of look at them like our creators, even though they're not our creators. The infinite source created everything. Now, his mother told him, oh, well, if you want to live as long as your father, who is one of these Anunnaki, if you wanted to live as long as your father, you're going to have to go to the landing place, the place where the spaceships are coming and going that Elijah talked about. The spaceships are all throughout the Bible. You have to go to the landing place and catch one of the spaceships and go to their home world, and then you'll live for a very long time. So Gilgamesh is like, well, I'm going to go find this place in the Cedar Mountains where all these the cedars of Lebanon, the Bible talks about it. This place where all these cedar trees are growing, that's where they had their landing place. Well, on his way going they get there and it's guarded. They can't get in, him and Enkidu. And the mother is so worried for Gilgamesh, right? As any mother would be, that she gets Enki to make a stunt double for him called Enkidu. And so him and Enkidu are going together. Now, Gilgamesh could be, I'm going to say something real crazy here. Gilgamesh could be Nimrod. I know that sounds crazy, right? Because I don't think that Nimrod is a historical figure. I have to do more diving into Nimrod. It seems that Nimrod is a legendary figure, and Nimrod also was very large. And in the Bible, they say he was a great hunter. I think Nimrod is Gilgamesh. But anyway, we'll talk about that on another day. Okay, so him and Enkidu get there. They meet up with the bull of heaven. Now, this bull of heaven is one of the guardians to keep them out of there. And they're so afraid and they try to get away, and the bull of heaven chases them. And when they get to a certain point, Enkidu turns around and starts fighting the bull of heaven. He chops the bull of heaven's thigh. The bull of heaven dies, and it's just horrible. Why is it horrible? Because Let me plug up my device, my computer, because the bull of heaven represents Enlil, and it means that Enlil's it's a symbol, it's a sign. You know how you have an omen, like your bull of heaven just got severed, like at the thigh, and that means that his kingship is coming to an end. Hold on, let me make sure I'm plugged in. Hold on, it's acting like it's not plugging in. And so, hold on. Okay. And so, when news hits Enlil, because the bull of heaven represents Enlil, when news hits Enlil that the bull of heaven, they now they say after the flood, Enlil wasn't in the area anymore. Enlil and Ninurta, the one who pulled the nuclear bombs onto um, Sodom and Gomorrah, onto the Twin Cities. They say they were in the Americas, right? Building their things at like Chichen Itza, Teotihuacan, building their cities out there where the gold was. Massive gold stores in the Americas. That's where they were at that point after the flood. Well, all hell breaks out. Everyone recognizes the sign that Enlil, the great ruler, the bull of heaven, what does that sound like? It's astrology. It's correlated. And that his reign, his that's right, it's Taurus. His his time has come. And Marduk is like, well, now it's my time. And Marduk seeks to assert his time. He's taking advantage of it. This is like a Game of Thrones. He's like, now I'm going to, right? It was infighting, civil war, sibling rivalry, all of it, all the drama you can imagine. The Anunnaki brought it to this planet, and you can see it's still playing out. It's still playing out, right? Oh my goodness, Ravel, at the end of this breakdown of the Tower of Babel, can you break down the best way to join here or one of your other platforms? Absolutely. So, I have a mystery school, and the mystery school meets on Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. It's a very elite, a very small group of us. It's a very intimate group. Right now, I'll give you the link to it at christianwitches.com. And if you go to christianwitches.com, you'll also see that the Christian Witches Convention is coming up. So I'm going to drop the link for that too. And I am also going to drop the link to valerielove.com so that you can see how you can apply to come with us to the Mystical Realms Retreat, which is in Stonehenge. Yes, we're going to be going to the ancient Stonehenge coming up on the fall equinox. Oh my goodness, I cannot wait to get to Stonehenge on the fall equinox with our amazing family. Um, I am going to give you let me go on screen share for a quick minute so I can show you something. There's something I want to show you. Okay, so here is the link to the Christian Witches Convention. Here are all the links so you know what's what. And let me take you over to the Christian Witches Convention. So here you see some of the attendees from the Christian Witches Convention. Last year at the Harry Potter party on Saturday night, we were getting ready to paint the town red in New Orleans. And so the Christian Witches Convention tickets just went on sale. And we tell you all about the Christian Witches Convention, what to do, how to be a reader there, how to be a sponsor, all of the things is at the Christian Witches Convention. Now, if you go to valerielove.com and you go to, even if you just go right here to valerielove.com, the very first page, that's us in Thailand at the Serenity Retreat. If you go to valerielove.com, let's go down here. There's a Christian Witches Convention in New Orleans, Stonehenge on the fall equinox. This gives you all the detail about the Stonehenge Mystical Realms Retreat in Stonehenge. So you can find everything at either valerielove.com and christianwitches.com. Okay. Taurus, the time of Baal, the Taurus field weekend. Yeah, this is it. Woo! Come on, come on, come on, Smoky Thoughts. You tracking right with us. We here. You are tracking. You can read the signs. That's what occult means. Occult doesn't mean evil. Occult means hidden. That's what occult means. And people get so afraid. Occult, oh my God. I plead the blood. You don't have to do all that pleading. We're only talking about that which is hidden, which you must do a search for so as to find. Okay? That's what it means. Oh my goodness. What is your perspective on morality and where our morals come from? It's an excellent question. It's a very, very good question. I'm going to take that question on in another conversation. It's a very good question. Okay, so let's come down to the end because we've been on here for over an hour already, and you know how your sister love to talk. Okay, so let's come down to an end and let's put it in a nutshell. Let's wrap it up with a pretty bow. Now, the key is that we have here an Anunnaki story, and supposedly because Marduk, let me finish this circuit, because Marduk was on Team Inky and he was the one building this great structure, Enlil ordered a destruction of the structure at night, ordered a strike on the on the tower. It wasn't God. It wasn't God. It wasn't God. Right? It is very clear that we have got to help everyone who wants to know this understand what's really going on because people want to hold on to that Christian story no matter what. And you know what? I do love that. And I feel everyone should do what works for them. And I also feel like I know that a lot of people really changed their life when they came into Christianity, right? That maybe they were down and out, or they were drinking, or they were doing something, and there was something, and they had a moment with Jesus, or the Holy Spirit came into their heart, or that's real. That experience is real. What's not real is all the other crap they try to put with it. Your experience is valid. Your experience is real. You had some kind of spiritual moment. You had some kind of awakening. You had, and maybe it happened in church. That was real. I've had those too. That's real. It doesn't mean that everything that they say in the church is true because you had an experience there. That's the piece that people seem to not understand. They think because they had the experience in the church, they're crying and they're on their knees in church and they're just having this incredible spiritual experience. Yes, that's real. And then when you stand up, you say, "Oh, thank you so much for showing me that I had it inside me all the time. I had the ability to have this spiritual experience inside of me at any time. And the church was the catalyst in that moment. But it doesn't mean I have to come here every Sunday and give y'all all my money and be a Jesus freak for the rest of my life and damn everybody else that ain't. Just because I had a spiritual experience." People cannot distinguish their spiritual experience from the institution and all the teachings. You don't have to have all the teachings that go along with the spiritual experience. I discovered that in being a Christian witch. Oh, I don't have to take all that they taught me because they made it up. Someone else made it up and gave it to you. You don't have to take it all. You don't have to take the whole basket. You can look in the basket and say, I like Jesus. Yeah, I'm gonna keep Jesus. I like the Bible. The rest of that stuff in it, going to hell and the devil and all that, especially when you start studying and learning that they made all that shit up. You don't have to keep all of it. Get rid of it. Get rid of what doesn't work for you. They did it when they were making Christianity. They got rid of the parts that they didn't like. They got rid of the parts. They kept the parts from Paul and they got rid of some parts from Jesus so they could keep some parts for Paul to make their religion. You can do the same. So the end of the story is this: the Tower of Babel was not destroyed by God. The Tower of Babel never completed as they were building it. It never completed because a strike was ordered on it by Enlil. They never finished the Tower of Babel. It Many have come, they got pretty far though, because many, including even Greek historians, spoke of the magnitude of this great tower that was in Babylon, many people spoke of it outside of the Bible. So that way we know, yeah, this was actually a true, real place. And archaeologists have unearthed it, yet it's in ruins now, of course. Yet it was not in ruins even when Alexander the Great saw it. He wanted to rebuild it. Different people found it. Just like the Egyptians did not build the Great Pyramids, they found them. Understand that concept? Understand it. The Egyptians did not build the pyramids, they discovered them. So we understand, just like Gobekli Tepe, people come along and discover things and then they start living in them. And then the archaeologists come later, and you've got layer upon layer upon layer of what happened. This group of people, and this group of people, and this group of people. And sometimes that top layer group of people get credited for building this thing. No, they found it. And then this next group of people, the city that's under that, when you dig the rocks, oh, they found it too. And then you get to the bottom and you find that this thing is older than the flood, older than the Younger Dryas, like the Sphinx. Sphinx is older than like 13,000 years old, 12,000 years old. The pyramid, the Egyptians didn't make the Sphinx. They found the Sphinx and they didn't know what it was. They found it. So I tell you all of this to say that the Tower of Babel and all the things that are associated with the Tower of Babel, including wars over this great tower that Marduk was going to make for himself so he could communicate with the home planet so that he could, the other space station, he wanted to run it himself because he felt like it's my time. The time of the bull is coming to the end. It's my turn now. Y'all already dissed my father. You're not going to diss me. I'm next. You know, Inky's number was 40. His number was 50. Enlil's number was 60. He's like, I'm next in line, right? Inky's number was 40 and his number was 50 and Enlil's number was 60. I believe I have those numbers right. They all had their own numbers. And if you want to know why 40 is all throughout the Bible, because 40 was Inky's number. Isn't that interesting? So, all of this is to remind us that the real God is not in the Bible. The Bible's not about God at all. You are not beholden to the Bible. Beloved, you are not beholden to the Bible. Don't let people beat you over the head with the Bible. Don't let people tell you that you have to listen to the Bible, do everything that's in the Bible. Read the Bible, love the people that love the Bible. Just know that God ain't in that book. I love you. Peace, Casey. I'll see you next Wednesday.